Donald Trump's executive orders on birthright citizenship are facially unconstitutional. Let's talk about it. Now, the 14th Amendment says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the states where they reside. And to get an understanding of what those words actually mean, we need to look back at the history. How have the courts treated, this issue in the past? We need to look at the text of the language and where does that originate from? And this actually comes back to old English common law. And then we need to look at the, legislative intent. When this provision was passed, what was on their minds and what were they trying to do and what were they trying not to do? And the answer might surprise you. This is Wong Kim Ark. He was born in 1973 in San Francisco, California, to Chinese immigrant parents. Now, his parents weren't American citizens, and they could never actually become American citizens because of the laws in the United States at the time. Now, after a trip out of the country, Wong Kim Ark was denied re-entry into the United States under the Chinese Exclusion Act. He took his case all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, where they ruled in his favor. The courts examined the text and history of birthright citizenship in the United States and found roots of it all the way back to English common law, which was the basis of a lot of our founding principles. In that decision, they found that every person born within the dominion of the crown, whether they were from English or foreign parents, even if they were just temporarily in that area, was still an English. And we can get an idea of what was in the mind of the framers of the 14th Amendment by looking at the debates surrounding its passage. Here we have Senator Jacob Howard of Michigan, who was the author of the Birthright Citizenship Clause within the 14th Amendment. And he stated very plainly that this amendment, which I have offered, is simply declaratory of what I regard as law of the land already, referring back to the English common law, that every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to their jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law and national law a citizen of the United States. Now, this was met with some objection from Senator Edgar Cohen of Pennsylvania, who rose to give a very long, what I estimate to be at least 10-minute, judging by the length of the congressional record, speech. And I apologize for some of the language here, but he really did not like foreign people, especially Romani people who he called gypsies, who were roaming the streets of Pennsylvania doing terrible things like telling fortunes, and what he called the yellow race. He goes on to say, the yellow race, again, I apologize, the mongrel race, they outnumber us largely. Of their industry, their skill, and their pertinacity in all worldly affairs, nobody can doubt. But they may pour in their millions upon our Pacific coast in a very short time. Are the states to lose control over this immigration? Sounds like some familiar arguments are being recycled. Now, the state of California had overwhelmingly the largest population of the yellow race, as Senator Cohen put it. And this is the part I love about the debate, is in the most polite and professional manners, Senator John Conness from California basically says, bro, sit down, shut up, we're fine. Senator Cohen that he is overblowing the situation. Senator Conness goes on to say, we are entirely ready to accept the provision proposed in this constitutional amendment, that the children born here of Mongolian parents shall be declared by the Constitution of the United States to be entitled to civil rights and equal protection before the law with others. Senator Conness continues speaking to the body on passage of the amendment. The proposition before us, I will say, Mr. President, that's the President of the Senate, relates simply that the respect to the children begotten of Chinese parents in California. I voted for the proposition to declare that all children of all parentage, whatever, born in California should be regarded and treated as citizens of the United States, entitled to equal civil rights with other citizens of the United States. From there, the debate shifted to Native Americans and about whether or not they are entitled to citizenship. And the general consensus among the body was that because Native Americans were at that point in history operating under sovereignty within their tribal lands, that they were not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Now, Donald Trump's executive order seeks to redefine what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means. He says that if you're not here legally, then you're not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, but that flies in the face of law and the history of how this provision has been applied. Senator Turnbull addressed this when he was posed with a hypothetical about a non-sovereign, non-citizen being born in the state of Colorado. And his reply was, if they are there within the jurisdiction of Colorado and subject to the laws of Colorado, they ought to be citizens. And that's all that's proposed in this amendment. And this was again echoed by Senator Howard, the author of the amendment, when he said that jurisdiction means full and complete jurisdiction on the part of the United States, coextensive in all respects with the constitutional power of the United States, whether exercised by Congress, the executive, or the judicial department. Now, Donald Trump's executive order is facially unconstitutional. Like there is no debate about that. Like it flies in the face of established case law. He knows this. He wants to challenge it. But when it goes to the Supreme Court, what's going to be evaluated is what does the text, history, and tradition of the 14th Amendment require? And I can't see any other way that this comes down other than subject to the jurisdiction just means, does the United States have authority over you? Can they prosecute you? Can they jail you? Can they tax you? And if the answer to any of those is yes, then you are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, which means that this order should and probably will be found unconstitutional. And if you want to change birthright citizenship, you got to do it through a constitutional amendment.